For my book review, I chose the book My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. I chose this book because I was interested in the point of view from a family member, especially a sibling, living with someone with a disability. In Chapter 3 of our textbooks, there is a small section about family relationships. Unintentionally, the person with a disability may take up so much time and attention of the parents that the other children in the family may feel forgotten or left out. Or the children may become supportive and loving and protective. While the texts discuss families, how families may handle having a child with disabilities, it does not go into the all-consuming toll it may take on a family, both parents and siblings. The impact on families is huge and can be both positive and negative at the same time. The title of the book does not tell you if the sister's keeper is a position they are happy to fill or one they may resent. I was curious to see how a keeper would impact the relationship between siblings. The title, My Sister's Keeper, can be taken as a supportive role or as a burden, depending on the relationship between the two siblings. Told from various points of view, the main character is Anna Fitzgerald. Anna's sister, Kate, is one of the characters that has a disability, acute promyelocytic leukemia, a blood and bone marrow cancer that is very rare. Kate's illness limits her ability to live a normal life as a teenager and impacts everyone in her family. Early in the story we learn that Anna was created so that she could help her sister. In fact, it was not hidden from Anna. The embryo that would become Anna was chosen specifically because it was genetically matched Kate. The ethics of creating designer babies is in the background of this story. We are led to believe that Anna feels like she is being used for spare parts for her sister, and the only reason she exists is to save her life, her sister's life. Although later in the story, we learn this is not entirely true. With the support of her brother, Anna visits a lawyer to sue her parents for medical emancipation. We are led to believe that Anna wants to control the decisions over her own body and over medical procedures. At this point in the story, Kate needs a new kidney, and Anna's parents have decided that Anna will donate one without discussing this decision with either Anna or Kate. This brings up the ethical question of how far to go when deciding medical choices for one child over the well-being of another. Does Anna have a legal, moral, and ethical obligation to give up a kidney, or does she have the right to refuse to give up parts of her body? Later in the story, we learn that Anna is suing not because she's selfish or tired of only being used for her body parts, but because her sister Kate has asked her to do so. Our text states that the bond between siblings can be either positive or negative. This story leads us in the beginning to believe that it's negative, but before showing was trying to be supportive and positive all along, even to her own detriment. Also in this story is Anna's lawyer, Campbell Alexander. He's portrayed as a gruff, no-nonsense lawyer, but a good lawyer. While his disability is not defined until the end of the story, we learn that he has a service dog, giving us a hint that there is more to his story. Alexander has suffered a traumatic brain injury, and while his behavior seems quirky throughout the story, once you find out about this injury, the behavior begins to make more sense. The impact of Kate's illness on the family is shown throughout the story. Anna and Kate also have a brother, Jesse. Both Anna and Jesse state that people have always treated them differently because they were the kids with the sick sister. Jesse has turned to drugs, alcohol, and arson as a way to lash out. Whenever Jesse's in a scene, he often leaves to avoid whatever conflict is brewing, and his parents encourage this behavior. Jesse does not even live in the main house, but in an apartment over the garage, even though he's still a kid himself. Even Kate states in a conversation with another character, Julia, that Jesse does bad things to get noticed. Both kids, Jesse and Anna, feel unable to make plans for their own lives because everything could change in a second, giving examples of plans changed and canceled or holidays spent in hospitals. When Anna requests to go to a hockey camp, her mother refuses, saying that she has to be close by in case Kate needs her. Our textbook states it's a mistake to assume that a child with disabilities has a negative effect on marital relationships. Our textbook also states that having a child with a disability may actually make marriages stronger. Throughout the story, this statement's reinforced. The parents are united in doing what's best for Kate, even if they disagree on which course of action to take. When one parent would become emotional or overwrought, the other one would always be the calming influence. Kate's illness is the one that can show up at any time. Therefore, she's restricted in the things she can do. The slightest bump or wrong turn can cause uncontrollable bleeding and cause a life-threatening situation. Because of her fragile condition, Kate cannot attend school or play sports. She doesn't hang out with friends. Her socialization is limited to her home and to the hospital. Her closest relationship is with her sister. Kate states that when she hears that Anna has sued for medical emancipation, she couldn't stand losing Anna as her best friend. While Kate's educational needs are covered by Section 504 and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, Kate's educational challenges are not brought up as part of the story. The portrayal of Kate, I believe, is a positive one. She doesn't seem to feel sorry for herself and goes along with whatever decision her parents make for her. However, when she decides she does not want further treatment, she asks Anna for help, feeling like she cannot fight for herself. Whether this stems from her illness or from the loss of her boyfriend or a combination of both, Kate seems to have given up. She never sought unnecessary attention, although the entire family's life revolved around her illness. While the parents were focusing on Kate, the other children felt neglected and invisible at times. Kate seems to have accepted her role in life, but we found out she wants a say in her treatment. The physical limitation of Kate's condition are not constant, but are accurately portrayed in this story. She has the ability to move freely most of the time and does not have any intellectual disabilities. Most of Kate's disabilities come from the treatment she must endure to save her life. She spends a lot of time in the hospital. While she's aware and obviously intelligent, she is kept out of decisions involving her care. Although most of what we've learned from our textbook concerns a student's right to be included in the discussions regarding their education, that same argument could be made for an individual's right to be included in discussions determining medical procedures or interventions. Both girls in this story are obviously both have an opinion about their options. Campbell Alexander, the lawyer, also has a disability, which we discussed, the TBI. His disability, I believe, is also accurately portrayed. Alexander suffered a traumatic brain injury in a car accident right before graduating high school. After this accident, his personality changed and he pulled away from the ones he loved. In addition to the personality changes, Alexander suffers generalized tonic-clonic seizures, suffered from the injury suffered in the car crash. His demeanor, while dealing with people, is abrupt, impatient, and impulsive. While these characteristics just seem to be the gruff type of lawyer personality, we realize later, once we find out that he has a traumatic brain injury, that these are characteristics that happen after the injury. Our book states that possible signs of TBR are mood swings and self-centeredness. When Campbell decides for himself to leave, so he won't be a burden to Julia, he leaves without giving a reason. He's not thinking about the effect that it could have on Julia's life, just his own feelings about the situation, showing a little bit of self-centeredness there. His accommodations include a service dog to warn him of upcoming seizures. Throughout the book, Alexander has to defend his service animal's presence, being told many times, "You don't look blind." Our textbook even states that nearly everyone is familiar with guide dogs, which can help people who are blind travel independently. People are not as aware of service dogs that can detect seizures or low blood sugar. Service dogs are also gaining popularity for helping veterans with PTSD. Also, he has to repeatedly ask people not to pet his service dog. In the video assigned for Chapter 12, it's discussed that people around a person with a traumatic brain injury experience the loss of that person. When Alexander left Julia, he left her mourning a loss of relationship that abruptly changed without any explanation, leaving her to doubt her own self-worth and grieving without support. Julia definitely experienced a loss without the normal acknowledgments and emotional support you would receive as if a person died. And in this case, Alexander's personality seems to have changed, leaving a whole new person. While the portrayal of his disability seems accurate for Alexander, the explanation for his behavior is not. In the end, the book portrays Alexander's personality change as a noble effort on his part, not wanting to burden his girlfriend with a lifetime of caring for him. However, what we know of TBIs, the withdrawal and personality changes probably came from the injury itself. At the time of the writing of the story, APL was the most rare and fatal type of leukemia. But by 2015, APL had become the most curable form of leukemia with a 90% survival rate. Many of the treatments in the story were unknown and untested at the time. The thought of injecting someone with arsenic now at the time seemed outrageous, but now is a reliable treatment for APL. The story does help explain why someone with APL needs to live under certain restrictions. For example, a simple bruise or cut could become life-threatening for someone with APL because their blood won't clot, and they could bleed to death without medical intervention. A simple cold or virus that would possibly slow a healthy person down for a day or two could send a person with APL to the hospital because of their lowered immunity cannot fight off the illness. The book shows the struggles of everyday life with a person with APL that may not have been taken into consideration before reading the story. People reading the story may come away with more of an understanding of what a family living with a person with a disability may go through, more than just the disability itself. Both characters with disabilities in this story also saw themselves as burdens, actual or potential, to others. Another point I hope people would take away from this story is the importance of service dogs as an accommodation. Service dogs are more than guide dogs for the blind. Service dogs are working dogs not to be petted or distracted from their job. They should be welcome anywhere a person can go and should not be repeatedly questioned. Service dogs provide an important service for a person with a disability, from keeping them safe while performing necessary tasks to getting them emergency help when necessary. I hope people that after reading the story will understand the importance and the impact of a person with disability on a family.